Hey YouTube, this is take 2 of my bug out video. You might have been one of the 5 people that caught the first take. I didn't record so well, didn't end up turning out so good, so I'm just going to go ahead and redo it. But yeah, hopefully you watched my last video talking about my car kit. Not everything that you see here is stuff that would go into my bug out bag if I was bugging out. There are a few things in my car, such as my tarp, my tomahawk, few other things that would end up coming into this bag, as well as a med kit. If in the event that I was bugging out, my car is like almost always with me. It's either at my house or wherever I'm at, so I like to have if I don't have double of everything, I usually keep it in my car and then it would move to my bug out bag. But yeah, I'll go ahead and show you what I've got in here. So first I'll talk about the bag. I believe it might be like a military surplus bag. Someone gifted it to me. It doesn't have any like brand like logos on it or anything. But yeah, digital camo. It's waterproof. It has lots of straps. It has a pocket on each side and then a small pocket that zips here on the top. Has some MOLLE on the top. I keep a few things external, like a couple clips, this paracord bracelet with a little button compass. Right here on the straps, I keep this knife. It's a Remington. It's from the Sportsman series. I've had this knife since I was 13. It's probably the number one knife I would take out into the woods if I could only take one knife. It's good at chopping, processing wood. Has that serrated bit there so it can saw. It's full tang. The metal isn't the hardest stuff ever, but it gets the job done. It sharpens easy. Yeah, all around a good knife. Definitely have a decent sized knife in your kit. I like to have multiple knives so that they don't dull as quickly. They can serve different purposes. This I consider my go-to stabbing knife, and my wood processor. So another thing about this pack, sorry you're in the dark for a second, is it has these waistband straps to kind of distribute the weight a little more. This pack altogether weighs probably around 50 to 60 pounds, which is pretty heavy for me. I wouldn't be able to travel super far every day. My get home bag only weighs a few pounds, so with that I could really skedaddle and move pretty quickly. But this one would be for slower, longer treks. But I like to have everything I need to survive. This is built around more of like indefinite survival versus my get home bag, which is like 2 to 3 day survival. I'll go ahead and show you the clothes I've got in here. So right here, this bundle I keep wrapped up tight to minimize space. I have some thermal underwear, a shirt, and some jeans. And that could always layer up with whatever clothes I have on. I tend to wear clothes that work well for the elements that I'm in, so what I had on would most likely be good, but this is just a little extra and something else to change into. Then I also have several bandanas. Those can be used, I can make them into char cloth to catch sparks, like be a good fire starter. Can use them as bandages, rags, whatever needs to be used for. Wool socks, it's a necessity. Anyone who goes camping knows that even though it might be nice and warm during the day, at night it can get freezing, and those can go on your hands or your feet to help keep you warm. I have just an extra belt. I'm almost always wearing a leather belt, but this is like, it could be used as a tourniquet in emergency, or if someone else with me doesn't have a belt and they need to carry a gun or something on their waist, that could be the purpose. Keep some work gloves in here, just to protect my hands a little bit. Lots of socks. Then I have a shamag. If you've never seen one of these before, it's like a Middle Eastern scarf basically. It opens up pretty wide, and they can be used. They actually keep you warm if you put them over your face and it's cold, but they'll keep you a little bit cooler if you cover yourself up to protect you from the sun. So that's the reason they wear them in the Middle East, is mostly to keep cool. But you can also use it you know, just as kind of like a picnic blanket or different reasons. It's a pretty handy thing. There's 100 uses for Shimog. Next I have some hammock straps. My hammock. A tent, of course, is nicer, and I do have a tent, but if I'm bugging out on foot, that would just be too much extra weight. So like I said, I bring my tarp in too, and that would be my cover from rain, and this would get me off the ground. Hammocks, if you never slept in one, they actually do keep you a little bit warmer versus being just on the ground. And I would bring my sleeping bag with me most likely, which I don't keep that in my bucket bag because it's a little bit too big. But a sleeping bag inside the hammock can actually make a pretty warm shelter. And then here's some stakes. I use that to tie down my tarp. So 2 corners of the tarp would be on the trees above me, and then the other corners would be staked down to the ground with those. So moving on, I have a big gallon-sized plastic bag with some tin foil. Tin foil can be used to make just something reflective to use as like a signal, or you can make some makeshift like bowls and stuff that hold water. There's several uses for it. And then I put it in a big bag like this just because it's nice to have lots of bags to hold different things. Tin foil will most likely leave the bag just in there for now to kind of protect it a little bit. Then I have some cheap twine. You can get a big ball of twine like this for like $1 or $2 at Walmart. That's what I like to use mostly to tie up my tarp. And if you use this, it's not the strongest stuff, but if you double up, it makes it pretty strong. It's a lot cheaper than paracord. You can also use it as tinder, and you don't have to worry so much about like cutting up pieces if you're moving around a lot. You need different lengths because it's so cheap, and you get so much of it from one roll. I've already used this roll. It's probably twice the size. I've used it camping several times. And then I have like 100 feet of paracord. This little piece of string just came off something. I threw it in there, and then there's a little bit thicker rope. Next I have just some fishing line. I have a little hand fishing kit that I'll get to in a second, but that's what that's for. Deer call. So, help me catch some game, hopefully. Then I have some bottle rockets. If you watched my last video, so I had some in there too. These could be used just for signaling, or maybe take the gunpowder out to help me start a fire or something. Or maybe just for fun. I don't really know what use I have for them yet or how they'll come in handy, but they don't take up a ton of space and they don't weigh very much, so it doesn't hurt to just throw a couple of those in there. Up here I have this little sewing kit just for patching up any holes in my gear or anything. Pretty self-explanatory. There's a dry bag, just a little Walmart sack I threw in there to help me carry more things if I'm collecting berries or whatever. Down here I have a rain poncho. So that would just help keep me dry, or I could throw it over my stuff and keep my stuff dry. Which that bag, I don't know if I mentioned, is waterproof, but if I have things external that aren't, I could throw that over it. Then I have this wire saw, so if I stretch this out into a line, I can put it on a stick and basically make a little saw from it. That's kind of like a backup. But I like to have lots of ways to process wood because that is so important, especially in a like wilderness environment like what I live in. Then I have this little whistle just for signaling. It's pretty loud. That's a new addition. That's a cheap thing to throw in there too, and it's good, especially if you're planning on having several people with you and you want to like spread out and look for stuff or whatever. Then I have in this bag just a bunch of different size batteries, because you know you might find extra gear or you can use them for trading or something. I think that's a good thing to have in there. This kit, it's basically like a mini survival kit that someone gave me. Let me open it up for you real quick. So we've got a couple different fishing lures. This is basically like a hand fishing rod that I've made. Fire steel, some hooks, fire steel scraper, button compass. Just a little, mostly a fishing kit, just a little kit. It was a cool gift. Cool gift idea for someone you might want to be like getting into prepping or who's just getting into prepping. Then some duct tape. A million reasons for duct tape, but primarily patching up gear. Then I keep a notebook. If you're hungry, you know, or thirsty, you might not be quite in the right state of mind, so it can be important to write down your thoughts. Worst case scenario, you know, it doesn't come in handy, you can use it for Tinder. I have this little folding shovel. I believe I got that at Walmart for like $1. It's actually pretty sturdy though, unfolded, and you know that can be used just to dig a latrine or to coat a fire pit, or you know, whatever you gotta dig. Can't do some serious digging, but any kind of little holes would be good for. Right here I have a hatchet. This is another Walmart item. I think this is like a $7 or $8 hatchet, but it's all one piece, it's sturdy. It didn't come with a sheath, so what I did is took a long wool sock and put it over. So that's just a little tip for you. If you don't have a sheath for a blade, you can wrap it up in a sock. I think this piece right here is supposed to be for like cutting wire or something, but it also makes a good hammer. So it's kind of like a 3-in-1 tool, I guess you'd say. You could probably pry with it too. I like having items that serve multiple purposes, especially ones that weigh a lot. You want them to serve multiple purposes, so it gives you good reason to carry that weight. Right in here I have a folding saw. It's a Magellan, so basically like a step up from Ozark Trail. I think Ozark Trail is kind of like, let's say the Walmart, and Magellan is like the Target, so it's a little bit nicer, but still good stuff for your money. I think a saw is a lot better way to process wood than an axe as far as like cutting off limbs or felling trees, because it seems like you use a lot less energy, which you don't want to use more energy than you have to. You got to be careful with these, not to cut yourself, obviously. My dad almost died cutting his artery with one of these in a tree, so just kind of like watch where the blade's going. Make sure you're not cutting directly over your arm or something like that. But yeah, definitely worth its weight to put in there. That comes in handy camping quite a bit. Next I have this custom knife. Someone won this at an auction and gave it to me. It's super sharp. I like to use this one primarily for game, because I can keep it so sharp, and it's not super long, so it's not useful for many other things. But it's National Wild Turkey Federation. It's a good little knife. Next, this is like the classic survival knife that most survival channels endorse. It's a Mora Companion. Another razor sharp knife, useful for a lot of things, pretty sturdy. I think you can pick these up on Amazon for like 25 bucks or something. Very cheap knife, but awesome value. It's carbon steel. Down here I have some zip ties. I need to get some more. The big zip ties, like the white one, you can use for like restraining people, or the smaller ones are good for like making a more permanent shelter from branches or whatever. Lots of applications with those. Next I just have this little carabiner. Now I have a real compass. So button compasses, if you haven't noticed, sometimes aren't very reliable. So I like to have something a little bit more reliable like this. Definitely worth the investment. Pay 20 bucks or so for a compass that actually works well, points north every time. Good thing to have, so you can actually know where you're going. But of course you need a map too, unless you already have a map in your head. In this bag, I have one of those survival like calorie block things. And also some Altoids that came from an Altoids can. I think this is like 2 days worth of calories or something. You can get these at Walmart really cheap, like maybe 14 bucks. So that's just a good thing to have. Food is heavy, so you know, this is, like I said, kind of for indefinite survival, so you don't want to have too much built around food that's going to go away, but you want to have ways to catch food. That's like, say, like the fishing kit. That's used to help you catch food so that you can survive out there longer. Up here, I have some glow sticks in that bag. It just has light. some cheap headlamps. So headlamps are really nice because it frees up both your hands still. And then my light that you saw in the last video, that would definitely come in here too. That'd be my primary light. But I just have redundancy because especially with electronics, things go wrong. Up there I have some lighters. I think I mentioned this before. I like Bic lighters the best for the price, but there's actually a couple cheaper ones thrown in there too. Then I have some candles. These are like lifeboat matches. The cool thing about these is you can dunk them underwater and pull them up and they'll still keep burning. And they burn for a lot longer than regular matches. All that orange right there is still part of the match that burns, like whatever the chemical is. Yeah, so those are good for starting fires, especially in like harsh conditions when you really need a fire. Then I have this metal canteen. Can cook over that, boil water, and it's just really sturdy, so I don't worry about it breaking. Up here, this is kind of like my fire kit, so I have some petroleum jelly, lots of different candles. I have an Altoids can that you see has a hole in it that can be used for making char cloth. So basically you stick something cotton in there, stick it in the fire for a little bit, and then you'll take it out and it'll be all black, and that'll catch a spark. There's also a pencil sharpener in there somewhere, which the shavings from that are good tinder. I like to keep it in the bag just to kind of help keep everything dry. Up here is my hygiene kit, so there's some wet ones. Those are just good toilet paper or just wiping yourself down, cleaning up. If I had to lose something, like that bag ended up being too heavy, couldn't trek as fast, this is probably what would go first, unfortunately, but these are just more comfort items, so bug repellent, soap, tissues, shampoo, more body soap, Irish Spring. This next little bag has an outlet for a charger, an emergency blanket. Those are really cheap too and don't weigh very much, so good item. Then I have 2 of these little magnesium fire starters. So this part's magnesium, you shave that off into a pile, and then you can spark it with this part, which is like a fire steel, and the magnesium catches and burns really hot. So those are cool items. Those work. I always use a lighter as my first source, but eventually, you know, you run out of butane, and then those things will last a lot longer than a lighter. Now I'll go down to like my food and water. So I have a couple different containers which I can cook in. I have 2 MREs broken down in here. So this is like the salt and pepper and condiments. Show you all what I got to eat. So it's typical like MRE. This one's chicken breast. These are some crackers, roasted peanuts, some tortillas. This is a milkshake, vanilla milkshake. Spice pound cake. That'll be yummy. Fat-free mayonnaise. And then I have this little MRE spoon. In here, this is like a little folding stove that collapses. So basically, this folds up into like a little cube type deal, and you can burn gas with it. There's these little fuel tablets that work with it, or you can just put wood underneath and you can set a canteen on and boil water or cook food or whatever. Pretty nifty. This is a pretty expensive item. You can probably find them cheaper, but I got this one at Bass Pro for about 50 bucks. Pretty cool though. Definitely not a necessity, but it would make life easier in the bush. Then I have just a couple water bottles to get me started. This is like not even a day's worth of water, but if I was already dehydrated when I grabbed my bag, that'd be something just to quench my thirst. Then I have a Sawyer water filtering system. So it comes with this little bag to hold water. Then there's the filter itself, and there's also a straw and a syringe in there. With those, I've drank out of some pretty nasty water with them and been okay. but in a situation where you could get medical care, I would recommend filtering that water first and then boiling it and maybe letting it cool and filter again, especially if it's really nasty. You might repeat that as many times as you feel you need before you're safe, because you can get some nasty diseases from water. If you get diarrhea, it's going to just dehydrate you further. Yeah, so be careful with that. But that about wraps it up. So all this right here fits in that bag. Hope you guys enjoy the video.